Anna Hayes lay face down in the snow, bleeding, surrounded, about to die. 5 men stood in a circle around her. Silas Brennan pressed his boot between her shoulder blades, forcing her face deeper into the frozen ground. He cocked his Colt .45. The click echoed across the mountain. "Last chance," he said. "Tell me what the old woman told you, or I put a bullet in your head right now." Anna closed her eyes. This is how I die, she thought. In the snow, like an animal. Then the world exploded. A rifle shot rolled across the mountain like thunder. Morrison jerked backward, his shoulder blooming red, and fell screaming into the snow. 300 yards away, barely visible through the blowing storm, a dark figure stood on the ridge. The rifle in his hands was already tracking another target. Anna did not know it yet, but the man on that ridge was about to change everything. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back 45 years, to where it all began. The fire crackled in the stone hearth, casting dancing shadows across the weathered walls of Blackwood Haven. Outside December, snow fell in thick curtains, just as it had 45 years before. Ethan Blackwood sat in his favorite chair, the leather worn smooth by decades of use. At 83, his hands were gnarled like old tree roots, but his eyes remained sharp as broken glass. His grandson Michael sat cross-legged on the floor, 15 years old, and hungry for stories the way only the young can be. The boy had been pestering him for weeks, asking questions about the photographs on the mantel, about the names carved into the memorial stone outside, about how this place, this sanctuary for the lost and broken, had come to exist. Ethan reached for the photograph, his fingers trembling slightly. 3 faces looked back at him from 1876. Himself at 38, still carrying the weight of wilderness years in his eyes. Anna Hayes at 32, beautiful and fierce despite everything she had endured. And Catherine Porter at 56, silver-haired and wise, the grandmother none of them had asked for, but all of them needed. "You asked me why I built this place, boy." Ethan said, his voice like gravel rolling down a mountainside. "You want to know why we take in widows and orphans, why we never turn anyone away no matter what they have done, why this land belongs to everyone who needs it." Michael nodded, leaning forward. "Then I will tell you, but understand this. What I am about to tell you is not a fairy tale. People died. Good people made terrible choices. And the man I was then, the man I was for 12 long years before that winter, he was not someone you would have liked very much." Ethan set the photograph on the small table between them. The fire popped, sending sparks up the chimney. "It begins with a knock on a door. My door. In the middle of the worst blizzard I had ever seen. And it begins with 2 women who should have been dead, who everyone wanted dead, who came looking for mercy from a man who had forgotten what that word even meant." He closed his eyes, and the years fell away like snow from a pine branch. December 18th, 1875, 6:47 in the morning. The cold was a living thing, a beast with teeth made of wind and claws made of ice. It had a voice too screaming through the Colorado Rockies with the fury of something ancient and hungry. The temperature sat at 15 degrees below zero. The wind howled at 40 miles per hour. Any exposed skin would freeze solid in less than 4 minutes. Anna Hayes lay face down in the snow, and the world had narrowed to 3 simple facts. She was bleeding, she was surrounded, and she was about to die. Her forehead had split open when Frank Morrison struck her with his rifle butt, and the blood ran hot down her face before freezing into a grotesque mask. 5 men stood in a circle around her, their breath fogging in the brutal cold. Their horses stamped and whickered behind them, nervous in the way animals get when they sense violence coming. One of the men, the one who had given the order to strike her, placed his boot between her shoulder blades and pressed down. Anna's face went deeper into the snow. She tasted copper and ice. "The old woman," Silas Brennan said, and his voice was as cold as the air around them. "Where is she?" Anna did not answer, could not answer. Her mouth filled with snow and blood. 10 feet away, Catherine Porter lay crumpled like a discarded coat, her silver hair matted with frozen blood, her chest barely moving. The older woman had tried to fight when Morrison grabbed Anna. One of the other men had clubbed her across the back of the head with casual brutality, the way you might swat a fly. Brennan crouched down, bringing his face close to Anna's. He was 42 years old, and the loss of his wife had carved him hollow. His eyes held nothing now but winter. "Last chance," he said. "The old woman is dead anyway. But you can still live. Just tell me what she told you, what secret she whispered before we found you." Anna managed to lift her head an inch. Snow and blood dripped from her chin. "I do not know what you are talking about," she gasped. Brennan stood and nodded to Morrison. The big man moved to their saddlebags and began rifling through the meager possessions the two women had been carrying. Spare clothes, a few days of food, a leather pouch. Morrison opened the pouch and silver coins spilled into his palm. His eyes widened. "Well now," Brennan said, walking over. He took the pouch and counted quickly. $500 in Mexican silver. That is a fortune for two widows fleeing in the night. He walked back to Anna and dangled the pouch above her head. "Funny thing, the town of Silver Creek is missing exactly $500 from the community fund, money that disappeared the same night you two left. And here it is in your possession. What do you call that, Mrs. Hayes? I call it theft." Anna tried to push herself up, but Brennan's boot came down on her back again, harder this time. "That is my money," she managed. "My husband's death benefit. The mine owes me." "Your husband died in an accident. Tragic, but accidents do not come with payment. This is stolen money. And in the territory we hang thieves." He drew his Colt .45 and cocked it. The click was very loud in the howling wind. "Unless you tell me what Catherine Porter told you about the mine, about what my employer does not want known." The wind screamed. Anna closed her eyes. "This is how I die," she thought. "In the snow, like an animal." Then the world exploded. The sound of a rifle shot rolled across the mountain like thunder. Morrison jerked backward, his shoulder blooming red, and fell into the snow screaming. The other men scattered, diving for cover, reaching for their weapons. Another shot. The snow 2 inches from Brennan's head erupted in a spray of white, and he threw himself flat. "Where is he?" one of the men shouted. "The ridge," another answered, pointing. 300 yards away, barely visible through the blowing snow, a dark figure stood silhouetted against the gray sky. The rifle in his hands was already moving, tracking another target. Brennan scrambled behind his horse. "Find him!" he roared. "Find him and kill him!" But the figure was already moving, disappearing into the rocks and trees like smoke. A third shot, a fourth, not aimed to kill now, but to create chaos, to scatter the hunters like crows. It worked. "We need to go," Billy Turner shouted. The youngest of Brennan's men, barely 25, his nerve was breaking. "We are exposed out here. We are not leaving," Brennan screamed back. But Morrison was bleeding badly, clutching his shoulder and moaning. The horses were panicking. And somewhere in the rocks above them, an unknown shooter with a very good rifle was making them dance. Brennan looked at Anna one more time, his face twisted with rage and something deeper, something that looked almost like grief. "This is not over," he said. "Whoever he is, wherever he takes you, we will find you. And when we do, I will make you watch while I skin that old woman alive. You understand me? I will make you watch." Then they were mounting up Morrison, howling as they hauled him into his saddle and riding hard back down the mountain. The sound of hooves faded into the wind. Anna lay in the snow, shaking. She tried to move and could not. Her body had given everything it had just to survive the beating. The dark figure appeared, seemingly materializing from the trees themselves. He was tall, over 6 feet, wearing a buffalo hide coat crusted with ice and snow. His beard was thick and shot through with gray, frozen stiff from his breath. He carried a Winchester Model 1873 rifle in one hand as if it weighed nothing. He stood over Anna for a long moment, and she could not see his face clearly through the snow and her own blood and tears. "Please," she whispered. "Help her, Catherine, please." The man did not speak. He moved to Catherine, checking her pulse with a gentleness that seemed at odds with his rough appearance. Then he looked back at Anna. His eyes were gray like winter sky, and in them Anna saw something she had not expected. Recognition, not of her face, but of her situation. The look of someone who had seen suffering before and understood its weight. "Can you walk?" His voice was deep, rough from disuse. "I do not know." He helped her sit up, moving with careful efficiency. Then he bent and lifted Catherine into his arms as easily as if she were a child. The old woman's head lolled against his chest. "Follow me," he said. "Stay close. The storm is getting worse." Anna managed to stand swaying. Her vision swam. "Who are you?" she asked. The man had already started walking. He called back over his shoulder without turning. Someone who should have minded his own business. Then he was moving through the snow, and Anna had no choice but to follow or die. Behind them, the blood in the snow was already being covered by fresh powder, erasing all evidence that anything had happened here at all. In the mountains, the wilderness kept its own counsel. It buried secrets as easily as it buried bones. Anna stumbled after the tall man, each step in agony, and did not look back. Looking back had never saved anyone. The mountain wind howled, and somewhere in the distance she thought she heard wolves answering. Ethan Blackwood had not spoken to another human being in 3 weeks. He had not wanted to speak to one in 12 years. So when his solitude shattered with gunshots and screams carrying on the wind, his first instinct was to ignore it. His second was to load his rifle. He had been checking his trap lines when he heard it. 3 miles from his cabin, high on the ridge where he could see for miles in every direction. The sounds of violence were distinct even through the storm. Shouts, a woman screaming, the unmistakable crack of someone being struck. Ethan had stood there for a full minute arguing with himself. Not your problem. You left the world behind. You chose this. But his feet had already started moving. Now, carrying the unconscious older woman through knee-deep snow with the younger one struggling behind him, he was regretting everything. His cabin was 1.2 miles away. In good conditions, a 20-minute walk. In this storm, with 2 injured women, it would take an hour or more. Catherine Porter, though he did not yet know her name, weighed perhaps 130 pounds. Not heavy for a man who regularly hauled deer carcasses miles through rough terrain. But she was dead weight, and dead weight in a blizzard was its own kind of hell. Anna stumbled and fell 10 yards behind him. Ethan stopped, turned, waited. She got up, fell again. He walked back, still carrying Catherine. "Get up," he said. "I am trying." Anna gasped. Blood still ran from her forehead, freezing in rivulets down her face. "Try harder. You die out here. I cannot help you. I have my hands full." It was harsh, but it was true. And something in his tone, the absolute flatness of it, seemed to give her strength. She planted her hands in the snow and pushed herself up. "How much farther?" she asked. "Far enough. Walk." They moved again. The wind tore at them, trying to push them off the mountain. Snow blew horizontal, each flake a tiny knife. Ethan's beard was a solid mass of ice. He could feel Catherine's heartbeat against his chest, too slow, too weak. Hypothermia was setting in. Stage 2, maybe stage 3. They had perhaps an hour before her organs started shutting down. Anna fell again. This time Ethan did not stop. He called back without turning his head. "You can rest when you are dead." "I might be," Anna shouted back. "Not yet, you are not. Now move." She moved. They climbed a ridge, descended into a small valley, climbed again. Ethan's cabin sat tucked against a granite cliff face, built with his own hands from timber he had cut and cured himself. 15 feet by 20. Solid construction. A stone chimney. Windows small enough to hold heat, but large enough to shoot from if needed. It came into view through the snow like a miracle. But when they got close, Ethan stopped so suddenly that Anna nearly walked into him. The door was open. Just a crack, but open. He had locked it that morning. He was certain of it. Ethan turned to Anna. "Stay here," he whispered. "Do not move. Do not make a sound." He set Catherine down gently in the snow, then drew the pistol from his belt. A Colt single-action, well-maintained, fully loaded. He approached the cabin in a half-crouch, moving with the silence of a predator. The door hung on leather hinges. He pushed it open with his foot pistol raised. Inside, a massive black bear, easily 300 pounds, was methodically destroying his food stores. The animal had broken through the wooden crate where he kept his dried meat and was gorging itself, making satisfied grunting noises. Ethan and the bear stared at each other for 3 seconds. Then Ethan fired a shot into the ceiling. The sound was enormous in the confined space. The bear roared in surprise and panic, wheeled around and crashed through the nearest window, taking the shutters and half the frame with it. Glass and wood exploded outward. The bear hit the ground running and disappeared into the trees, bellowing. Ethan stood in the doorway, gun still raised, and allowed himself a single, small smile. "At least you are honest about your intentions," he said to the empty air where the bear had been. Behind him, Anna's voice was weak, but carried a note of something that might have been humor. "You did not kill it. It was just hungry. I understand hungry." He holstered the pistol and went back for Catherine. Anna followed him inside. The cabin was cold, the fire having gone out hours ago, but it was shelter from the wind. And shelter was everything. Ethan laid Catherine on his bed, the only bed, and immediately began building a fire in the hearth. His hands moved with practiced efficiency. Kindling, small wood, larger pieces. Within minutes, flames were spreading and heat began to fill the space. Anna stood swaying in the doorway, hugging herself. "Close the door," Ethan said without looking at her. "You are letting the cold in." She did. Then she collapsed. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. Up close, he could see the extent of her injuries. The gash on her forehead was deep, would need stitches. Her lips were blue with cold. Her hands, when he checked them, were dangerously pale. 2 patients, both critical. He had lived alone for 12 years specifically to avoid situations like this. But here he was. Ethan carried Anna to the chair by the fire and sat her down. Then he went to work. Anna woke to warmth and the smell of wood smoke. For a moment she thought she was home, that everything that had happened was a nightmare. Then pain crashed through her skull like a hammer, and she remembered. Silver Creek, the accusations, the mob, running through the snow, Brennan, the beating. Her eyes snapped open. She was sitting in a chair near a fire. A rough wool blanket had been draped over her shoulders. Her coat, she realized, was gone. So were her boots. Her feet were wrapped in strips of cloth and propped up near the fire. Across the small cabin, Catherine lay in a bed covered in what looked like several animal hides. Her chest rose and fell steadily. Alive, then. And near the bed, moving with quiet efficiency, was their rescuer. In the light of the fire, Anna could see him properly for the first time. He was tall, she had known that, but she had not appreciated how tall. 6'2" at least. His hair was dark brown, shot through with gray shoulder length, and wild. His beard was thick and unkempt, frozen stiff in some places, dripping in others as the ice melted. His face was weathered like old leather carved by years of wind and sun into hard angles. But his hands, those surprised her. As he checked Catherine's pulse, adjusted, her blankets placed a cool cloth on her forehead. His hands were gentle, careful. The hands of someone who understood fragility. He noticed Anna watching and straightened. "You are awake," he said. "Not a question, just a statement of fact." "Where are we?" "My cabin. You are safe for now." Catherine. Alive. Barely. She has severe hypothermia and a concussion. Her pulse is weak but steady. I have done what I can. Anna tried to stand, and immediately her vision went white with pain. She gasped and sat back down hard. "Do not move," the man said. "You have a concussion too, and that cut on your forehead needs stitches. I need to treat it soon or it will get infected." "Who are you?" Anna asked. The man walked to a shelf and began gathering supplies, a needle, thread, a bottle of whiskey. "My name is Ethan Blackwood. This is my home. You are not welcome here, but you are here anyway, and I am not the kind of man who throws injured women back into a blizzard. So you will stay until the storm breaks. Then you will leave." The bluntness of it was almost shocking. "Thank you," Anna said quietly. For saving us." Ethan turned to her, holding the needle up to the firelight, checking its sharpness. "Do not thank me yet. Those men who were hunting you, they saw me. They know you got away with help. They will come looking, and when they do, having you here will bring them to my door. So no, do not thank me. You have just made my life considerably more complicated." He walked over and knelt in front of her chair. "This is going to hurt," he said, gesturing to her forehead. "The whiskey is for cleaning the wound, not for drinking. If you need to scream, scream. No one will hear you but me." Anna met his eyes. They were gray, she saw now, the color of winter sky before snow. "I have been through worse than stitches," she said. Something flickered across Ethan's face. Respect, maybe, or recognition. "I believe you," he said. Then he began to work. Anna did not scream, but she came close. The whiskey burned like liquid fire in the open wound. The needle pierced her skin again and again, pulling the edges of the gash together. Ethan worked with steady hands, each stitch precise and even. He had done this before she realized, on himself probably. When he finished, he stepped back and examined his work. "It will scar," he said, "but it will heal clean if you keep it dry." "I do not care about scars." "No, I suppose you would not." He moved back to check on Catherine. The old woman was mumbling in her sleep words Anna could not quite make out. "She needs rest," Ethan said, "and warmth, and probably a doctor, but the nearest one is in Fort Collins, 3 days' ride in good weather. In this storm we might as well be on the moon." "What do? We wait. We hope her body is strong enough to fight, and we pray if you are the praying type." Anna looked at the fire. "I used to be." Ethan said nothing to that. Outside the wind howled. The cabin creaked but held firm. The fire burned steadily, casting dancing shadows on the walls. After a long silence, Anna spoke again. "The men who were hunting us. Their leader, Silas Brennan. He will not stop. He thinks we stole money from Silver Creek." "Did you?" "No. That money is mine. My husband's death benefit from the mine where he died. But Brennan, he does not care about truth. He cares about revenge." "Revenge for what?" Anna hesitated. Then quietly, "His wife died last year. Fell from her horse on Old Ridge Trail during a storm. Catherine had warned her not to ride that day. Told her the trail was too dangerous. Mrs. Brennan did not listen. She died. And Brennan, he blamed Catherine. Said she cursed them. Said Catherine brought bad luck to everyone she touched." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "Grief makes people stupid," he finally said. "And stupid people are dangerous. He is more than dangerous. He is mad with it. And the Mayor Clayton Frost, he is using that madness. Frost wants our land. Catherine's late husband discovered something before he died. Something valuable." "What?" Anna looked at him, measuring. Could she trust this stranger? Did she have a choice? "Silver," she said quietly. "A vein of it running through the land Catherine inherited, worth thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Frost found out. He tried to buy the land cheap. Catherine refused. So Frost started spreading rumors, said we were cursed, said we brought death wherever we went, turned the whole town against us. And then when we tried to leave, he sent Brennan after us." Ethan stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the storm. "You should have told me this before I shot his man," he said. "Would it have changed anything?" "No, but I like to know what I am getting into." "And now that you know," Ethan turned back to her. His face was unreadable. "Now I know that the storm breaking is not going to solve your problem. Because Brennan and Frost, they will not give up. Not with that much money at stake." "What do?" "We," Ethan said, "will do nothing. You and Catherine will wait out the storm here. Then you will leave. You will go to Fort Collins or Denver or California for all I care. But you will not stay here. I did not spend 12 years building a life of solitude just to have it destroyed by other people's wars." His voice was hard, final. Anna felt something break inside her chest. "So you saved us just to abandon us." "I saved you because you were dying in front of me. But that does not make me responsible for your entire life. I am sorry for what happened to you. I am sorry your husband died, and that people treated you cruel, and that the world is an unjust place. But I cannot fix that. No one can. He walked to the door and grabbed his coat. I need to check the perimeter. Make sure your friends did not follow too close. You should sleep. Both of you. He opened the door. Snow and wind rushed in. Mr. Blackwood, Anna said. He paused but did not turn around. Why do you live up here alone? What are you hiding from? For a long moment he did not answer. Then so quietly she almost missed it over the wind. Everything. He stepped out into the storm and closed the door behind him. Anna sat in the chair, feeling the warmth of the fire on her face and the coldness of despair in her chest. They had escaped Brennan only to find a man who did not want them, who would send them back into danger the moment the weather cleared. From the bed, Catherine moaned softly. Anna got up, ignoring the pain, and went to her. She took the old woman's hand. "We will find a way," Anna whispered. "We always do." But in the darkness of the cabin, with the storm raging outside and a closed man as their only hope, the words felt hollow. Ethan stood in the snow behind his cabin, breathing hard. The cold air burned his lungs, but he welcomed it. Anything to clear his head. He had been alone for so long, 12 years, 144 months, 4,380 days, give or take. He knew because he had counted every single one for the first 5 years, marking them on a post inside the cabin with a knife. Then he had stopped counting. The numbers did not matter anymore. There was only before and after. Before he came to the mountain, after he lost everything. Now 2 women were in his cabin, bleeding, dying possibly, bringing with them the very thing he had climbed this mountain to escape. Other people's problems, other people's pain, other people. He walked the perimeter of his property, checking for tracks. The snow was falling so thick he could barely see 10 feet ahead, but his eyes were trained for this. He knew every tree, every rock, every game trail within a mile. No tracks. Brennan had not followed. Good. But they would come back. Men like that always did, especially with money involved. Ethan should send the women away as soon as the storm cleared. It was the smart thing, the safe thing. But something in Anna's eyes had reached through 12 years of carefully constructed walls. The way she had looked at him when he said he would abandon them. Not anger, not pleading, just a quiet, bone-deep exhaustion with the cruelty of the world. He knew that look. He had seen it in the mirror for years after Rebecca married someone else. Ethan finished his circuit and returned to the cabin. When he opened the door, he found Anna kneeling beside Catherine's bed, gently wiping the old woman's face with a damp cloth. She moved with practiced care. Medical knowledge, maybe, or just long experience with suffering. "She is getting worse," Anna said without looking up. "Her breathing is shallow, and she has a fever." Ethan came over and checked. Anna was right. Catherine's forehead was hot to the touch. The body's response to trauma. Not good. "There is willow bark in the cabinet," he said. "Make a tea from it. It will help with the fever." Anna looked up at him, surprised. "You know medicine." "I know survival. Up here they are the same thing." He showed her where the supplies were, how much to use, how long to steep it. Anna worked with quick efficiency, clearly comfortable in the role of caretaker. "You have done this before," Ethan observed. "My husband was a doctor, Army surgeon, at Fort Union. I was his assistant. He taught me everything he knew. And then he died." Anna's hands paused for just a moment. "Yes, 8 months ago, cave-in at the mine. They said it was an accident. But you do not think so." "I know it was not. Thomas had found something, made maps of mineral deposits for the mining company. That is how he discovered the silver on Catherine's land. And he told me right before he died that someone had been asking questions. About the maps, about what he had found." She poured the willow bark tea into a cup and brought it to Catherine, carefully lifting the old woman's head to give her small sips. "Thomas knew too much, so they killed him, made it look like an accident. And then they took his maps and tried to take everything else too." Ethan watched her work. She was good at this. Gentle but firm. Patient. The kind of person who had seen death before and knew how to fight it. "Why did you stay in Silver Creek after he died?" he asked. "Why not leave then?" "Where would I go? I have no family, no money except what the mine owed me, and Catherine needed me. After her husband was killed, she had no one either. We were both widows, both alone, so we stayed together." "Her husband, you said he was killed?" Anna nodded, still focused on Catherine. "Pastor James Porter, a good man, fair, kind. He ran the church in Silver Creek and kept the community fund, money donated for widows and orphans and repairs. And he noticed something was wrong, money disappearing, donations coming in but not being distributed. He started keeping a ledger, a true ledger, documenting everything." She glanced at Ethan. "Clayton Frost did not like that. So one night James was shot. They blamed it on a drunk miner who had a grudge. Case closed. But Catherine knew. She knew because James had told her. He had proof, evidence of fraud, and he was going to expose it. Where is this evidence now? Hidden, in Silver Creek. Somewhere Frost has not found it yet, but he knows it exists, and he knows Catherine knows where it is. That is why he wants her dead." Ethan absorbed this. The situation was worse than he thought. Not just a land grab, not just revenge, multiple murders, conspiracy, money and power, and men willing to do anything to keep their secrets. He walked to his rifle and checked the ammunition. Still had a full box. 50 rounds. Probably not enough if things got bad. "You need to understand something," he said. "I am not a hero. I am not a fighter of wrongs or a protector of the innocent. I am a man who came to this mountain to be left alone. And I have done a fairly good job of it for 12 years. Anna looked at him now, her eyes steady. "Then why did you save us?" "Because you were dying right in front of me." "But you could have walked away. You said yourself you should have minded your own business. But you did not walk away. You saved us." "Why?" Ethan opened his mouth to answer and found he did not have one, not one that made sense anyway. "I do not know," he finally said. "I think you do. I think under all that isolation and bitterness there is still a man who remembers what it means to care. Maybe you have been alone for so long you forgot, but I see it. In the way you checked Catherine's pulse so carefully, in the way you stitched my head with gentle hands, in the fact that you did not kill that bear. You remember mercy, Mr. Blackwood, even if you wish you did not." Her words hit him like stones, each one finding a crack in his armor. "You do not know anything about me," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I know enough. I know you are in pain. I know you are hiding. And I know that whatever drove you up here, it was loss. I have seen that look before. In the mirror." Ethan turned away from her. He went to the fire and stared into the flames. "My parents died of cholera in '63, he heard himself say. "I buried them in the same grave because I could not afford to. My brother Daniel died at Gettysburg 2 weeks later. And the woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me, she married a banker 3 months after that. Said she needed security, said love was not enough to live on." He did not know why he was telling her this. He had not spoken these words aloud in over a decade. "So I came here, to the mountain, where people cannot hurt you because there are no people, where you cannot lose anyone because you never have anyone to begin with." "That is not living," Anna said softly. "That is just not dying. It is enough. Is it?" He did not answer. Could not. From the bed, Catherine suddenly gasped. Her eyes flew open, wild and unseeing. Anna rushed to her side. "Catherine, it is all right. You are safe." But Catherine was not seeing her. She was somewhere else, lost in fever dreams. "James," she whispered. "James, they are coming. You have to run." "Catherine, James is gone. It is just me. Anna." "The book." Catherine gasped, grabbing Anna's wrist with surprising strength. "Under the floorboards, 3rd board from the left, row 5. You have to get it. The evidence." He hid it. He knew they would come. Her eyes focused for just a moment, finding Anna's face. "Promise me, if I die, promise me you will get it. Make them pay. Make them all pay for what they did to James." I promise, Anna said, tears streaming down her face. But you are not going to die. Do you hear me? You are not leaving me alone. Catherine's eyes drifted closed again. Her breathing became shallow once more. Anna looked at Ethan, desperation clear on her face. Help me, she said. Please, I cannot lose her too. And Ethan, despite every wall he had built, despite every promise he had made to himself about staying uninvolved, found himself nodding. All right, he said. All right. Outside the storm raged on, but inside the cabin something had shifted. 3 souls in the wilderness bound together now by circumstance and need and the strange alchemy of shared suffering. Ethan Blackwood had thought he was done with humanity, but humanity, it seemed, was not done with him. The storm did not break for 7 days. 7 days during which Ethan Blackwood's carefully ordered life became something else entirely. The cabin that had been silent except for the crackle of fire and the whisper of wind now filled with the sounds of other people. Catherine's labored breathing, Anna's soft humming as she worked, the rustle of movement, the weight of presence. It should have driven him mad. Instead, something stranger happened. He began to remember what it felt like to be human. On the first full day, Catherine's fever spiked to 103 degrees. Anna worked tirelessly, changing cold compresses every 15 minutes, forcing willow bark tea between the old woman's lips, monitoring her pulse with the focused intensity of someone who had lost too many people already. Ethan found himself helping without being asked, fetching water, keeping the fire at the precise temperature needed to warm without overheating, holding Catherine steady when she thrashed in delirium. "You are good at this," Anna said during a brief moment of rest. "I have kept myself alive for 12 years. You learn things. It is more than that. You have a healer's instinct, a gentleness." Ethan grunted and went back to splitting firewood. He did not want to be seen as gentle. Gentle men got hurt, but Anna's words stayed with him. On the second day, Catherine woke for brief periods. Her eyes would focus, she would recognize Anna, and relief would wash over her lined face before exhaustion dragged her back under. During one of these lucid moments, she saw Ethan standing by the window and smiled. "An angel," she murmured. "God sent an angel." "I am no angel," Ethan said. "No." Catherine agreed, her voice barely a whisper. "You are something better. You are a man who chose to help when he did not have to. That is rarer than angels." Then she slept again. Ethan did not know what to do with her words. They sat in his chest like hot coals, uncomfortable and warming in equal measure. On the third day, the supply situation became critical. Ethan had stocked his cabin for 1 person, not 3. His winter stores were sufficient for 6 months of isolation, but 3 people ate 3 times as much. And Catherine, though she consumed little, needed specific foods. Broth, soft bread, things that were gentle on a recovering system. He would need to hunt. "I will be gone most of the day," he told Anna, as dawn broke on the 3rd morning. The storm had eased slightly, still snowing, but the wind had dropped from a scream to a moan. "Keep the fire going. Do not open the door for anyone. If someone comes, you hide. Understand?" Anna looked at the rifle he was not taking, the one he was leaving propped by the door. "You think they might come? I think you should be prepared for anything." He showed her how to load it, how to aim, how to breathe and squeeze rather than pull. She learned quickly, her hands steady despite their trembling. "You were right," she said quietly. "I do know how to shoot. Thomas taught me. But I have never shot at a person. Hopefully you will not have to. And if I do," Ethan met her eyes, "then you do what you must to survive, and you do not apologize for it after." He left before she could respond. The hunt took him far from the cabin, following deer tracks through snow that reached his thighs in places. He moved with the silence of a predator, his Winchester cradled in his arms, his breathing controlled. This was the part of mountain life he had never minded. The hunt, the focus required, the way the world narrowed to wind direction and track depth, and the precise moment to take the shot. He found a young buck near a frozen stream. Clean shot. Quick death. He dressed the carcass in the field, working with practiced efficiency, his hands red with blood that steamed in the cold air. As he worked, he thought about Anna's question. Why had he saved them? The easy answer was that he had simply reacted, seen people in danger, and responded. But that was not quite true. He had hesitated, had argued with himself, had taken a full minute to decide. And in that minute, what had tipped the scales? He thought of Anna's face beaten and bloodied in the snow. He thought of Catherine's silver hair matted with frozen blood. He thought of the cruelty in Brennan's voice. And he thought of Rebecca. Beautiful, practical. Rebecca, who had looked at him 12 years ago and said, "I cannot marry a man with nothing. I am sorry, but I cannot." She had not been cruel. Not really. She had been honest. And honesty, Ethan had learned, could cut deeper than any blade. He had loved her since he was 16 years old, had worked himself to exhaustion trying to build something worthy of her, had planned a future in exhaustive detail, house, children, a life, and she had chosen security over love, had married old Richard Caldwell with his bank and his money and his complete lack of soul. Ethan had not blamed her, not exactly, but he had been broken by it nonetheless, so he had come here, to the mountain, to the silence. And in saving Anna and Catherine, was he somehow trying to rewrite his own story, save someone the way he had not been saved? The thought made him uncomfortable. He hauled the deer carcass onto his shoulders and began the long trek back. By the time he returned, dusk was falling and his entire body ached. But he had food, enough venison to feed them for weeks if rationed properly. Anna opened the door before he could knock. Her face brightened when she saw the deer. "You did it." "I generally do." "How do you want to prepare it?" "We need to hang it, let it age a day or two, but I can carve out some for stew tonight." They worked together. Ethan showed her how to butcher properly, how to separate muscle groups, how to trim fat and sinew. Anna's hands, though smaller, were surprisingly skilled. "Thomas used to take me hunting sometimes," she explained, "before the war. He said a doctor should understand anatomy in all its forms." Smart man. He was. There was no bitterness in her voice when she spoke of her dead husband, only a quiet fondness. The kind that comes after grief has been processed and integrated. Ethan found himself envious of that peace. They made stew, simple. Venison, wild onions. Ethan had stored carrots from his root cellar water salt. It simmered over the fire and filled the cabin with rich, meaty smell that made Ethan's stomach clench with hunger. Catherine was awake when they brought her a bowl. Her color was better, her eyes clearer. "This smells like heaven," she said. "It is just stew," Ethan replied. "To a woman who thought she might die, just stew is heaven." They ate in companionable silence. 3 people huddled around a fire while the storm raged outside. Ethan could not remember the last time he had shared a meal with anyone. 5 years, 10. "How long do you think the storm will last?" Anna asked. Ethan looked out the window at the darkness. "Hard to say. Could be another few days. Could break tomorrow. Weather up here does not follow rules. And when it breaks, you and Catherine will need to leave. It is not safe for you here." Anna set down her bowl. "Where would we go?" "Fort Collins, Denver, anywhere that is not here. Frost's reach extends to Fort Collins. He has connections, friends in places that matter. We go there, he will find us. Then you go farther, east, find a city large enough to disappear in. With what money?" The $500 Brennan took, Ethan had forgotten about that. The stolen money that was not actually stolen. "You said it was yours, your husband's death benefit." Anna nodded. Thomas's contract with the mine included payment in Mexican silver instead of federal notes. Tax reasons. Perfectly legal. But it looked suspicious. And Frost used that. Claimed we stole from the community fund. Turned the whole town against us. Why would they believe him? Because he is the mayor. Because he has power. And because people want to believe the worst about widows, especially widows who own land worth a fortune. Catherine spoke up, her voice still weak but determined. "My husband hid evidence. A ledger. Proof of what Frost has been doing, stealing from the church fund, bribing officials. All of it documented. If we can get that ledger to the territorial marshal, Frost will hang. And if you cannot, then Frost wins, and James and Thomas died for nothing. Ethan stood and walked to the window. Outside, snow continued to fall, relentless, eternal, the mountain burying everything beneath layers of white. He should send them away, should protect his solitude at all costs. But something had happened during these 3 days. Some barrier inside him had begun to crack. He turned back to face them. This evidence, where exactly is it hidden? Catherine and Anna exchanged glances. In the church, Catherine said carefully. Silver Creek, under the floorboards, 5th row from the door, 3rd board from the left. You knock 3 times and then pull. James built a false bottom. The ledger is there. You are certain? I watched him put it there a week before he died. Ethan nodded slowly, thinking. Getting into Silver Creek without being seen will be nearly impossible, especially for you two. They are looking for you. But not for you, Anna said quietly. No, not yet. So you could get in, retrieve the ledger, get out. I could. Will you? Ethan looked at her. Really looked. She was younger than he had initially thought. She could not be much past 30. Her face carried the marks of hardship, but beneath that was strength, a core of iron wrapped in flesh. She reminded him of his mother, who had buried her parents and then her husband and then her son and never once complained, who had smiled even as disease consumed her and said, "It is all right. I am ready to rest now." "I will think about it," he said. It was not a yes, but it was not a no either. Anna smiled, small but genuine. "Thank you," she said. "I have not agreed to anything. You are still thinking about it. That is more than I had this morning." On the 4th day, Catherine was strong enough to sit up. Her fever had broken completely, and color had returned to her face. She was not recovered, not by a long measure, but she was no longer dying. Anna wept with relief. Ethan found himself standing awkwardly nearby, unsure what to do with the raw emotion in the room. Eventually, he did what he always did when uncomfortable. He went outside. Anna found him 20 minutes later splitting wood behind the cabin. "You do not have to leave every time someone cries," she said. "I do if I do not know what to say." "You do not have to say anything. Sometimes presence is enough." Ethan brought the axe down. The log split clean. "I am not good at presents. You are better than you think." She sat on a nearby stump watching him work. The storm had eased further. The sky was still gray, but the snow had slowed to occasional flurries. "Tell me about her," Anna said. "The woman who hurt you." Ethan froze mid-swing. "What makes you think there was a woman?" "Because men do not hide in mountains for 12 years over dead parents and dead brothers. They hide because their heart was broken." He set the axe down. "Her name was Rebecca. I loved her from the time I was 16. Proposed when I was 26. She said no." "Why?" "Because I was poor. Because I had nothing to offer except love and hard work. And for her that was not enough. So she married someone else. 3 months later, to the wealthiest man in Denver. She is probably living in a mansion right now with more food than she can eat and more dresses than she can wear and more of everything I could never give her." "And you think she is happy?" Ethan picked up the axe again. "I do not care if she is happy." "Yes, you do. That is why it still hurts." The axe came down harder than necessary. The log exploded into pieces. "She made her choice. I made mine. That is the end of it." "Is it?" Ethan turned to face her, and for the first time in days his voice carried real anger. "What do you want from me? You want me to say I am damaged, that I am hiding. Fine. I am. I am a broken man who came to the mountain because he could not bear to be around people anymore. Because every person I ever loved either died or left me. Because the world proved over and over that caring about someone is just an invitation for pain. Is that what you wanted to hear?" Anna did not flinch. "No," she said quietly. "I wanted you to hear it." She stood and walked closer. "You are not broken, Ethan. You are hurt. There is a difference. Broken things cannot be fixed, but hurt things can heal if they are brave enough to try. And what if I am not brave enough? Then you stay here, alone, for the rest of your life. And when you die, no one will know, no one will care, and the world will forget you ever existed." The words were harsh but true. "Maybe that is what I want," Ethan said, but even he could hear how hollow it sounded. Anna smiled sadly. "No, it is not. If that was what you wanted, you would not have saved us. You would not have stayed up all night keeping Catherine alive. You would not be considering going to Silver Creek to help people you barely know. You are not as cold as you pretend, Ethan Blackwood, and I think that scares you more than anything." She turned and walked back to the cabin, leaving him alone with the truth of her words. On the 5th day, something shifted. Catherine was well enough to walk around the cabin slowly but surely. She examined Ethan's small library, his well-organized supplies, the careful way he had built his life. "You have made a good home here," she said. "Peaceful." "It was," Ethan replied pointedly. Catherine smiled. "Solitude is a gift, but too much of any gift becomes a curse. Philosophers lived in caves alone, and they went mad. Humans are not meant for complete isolation. We need each other. Even the most introverted soul needs some connection. I am fine without it." Catherine looked at him with eyes that had seen 70 years of human nature. "Are you? Because from where I sit, you look like a man who has forgotten how to be alive." Before Ethan could respond, Anna called from the window, "Someone is coming." All three of them froze. Ethan grabbed his rifle and moved to the window. In the distance, maybe half a mile down the mountain, he could see 3 riders moving slowly through the snow. "Brennan," Anna whispered. Ethan squinted. The lead rider was large, broad-shouldered. Behind him, 2 others. "I cannot tell, but we should assume yes." "What do we do?" Ethan thought quickly. "Catherine, can you walk?" "If I must." "You must. Anna, gather what you can carry. Food, blankets. We need to be ready to run." "Where?" "There is a cave system 2 miles north. Old mine shafts. I have supplies cached there. If we move now, we can reach it before they get here." They moved with frantic efficiency. Anna stuffed supplies into packs. Catherine pulled on her warmest clothes, moving slowly but with determination. Ethan checked weapons ammunition maps. 5 minutes. That was all they had. But as Ethan watched the riders, something changed. They stopped. The lead rider dismounted and approached something on the ground, a marker of some kind. Then all 3 turned around and rode back down the mountain. Ethan lowered his rifle, confused. "They left," Anna said, disbelief clear in her voice. "They did. Why would they leave?" Catherine spoke from behind them, her voice thoughtful. "Because they were not looking for us. They were making sure we were not at the main trail, which means they think we went a different direction. Or," Ethan said slowly, "they were making sure I was home, making sure I had not gone anywhere." "Why would that matter?" "Because if I am here, I am not in Silver Creek, which means whatever they are planning, they do not want me interfering." Anna's face went pale. "They are going after the ledger. How would they know about it?" Catherine said James's name when she was delirious. Maybe she said more. Maybe enough for them to figure it out. Ethan walked to the table and spread out his map of the region. Silver Creek was marked clearly. 3 days' ride in good weather. In this snow, maybe 5. But if the storm broke in the next day or 2, and if someone pushed hard, they could make it in 4. He traced the route with his finger. Then he made a decision. "Pack for a week," he said. "We leave at dawn." Anna stared at him. You mean you are coming with us?" "If Brennan gets that ledger or destroys it, you have no proof, no case, no chance. And men like Frost, they do not stop. They keep hunting until they get what they want or until they are dead. So yes, I am coming." "Why? You said you wanted no part of this." Ethan looked at her, then at Catherine, then back at the map. "I changed my mind." "Why?" He did not have a good answer. Or rather, he had too many answers, and none of them made logical sense. Because he was tired of hiding. Because these women had reminded him what it felt like to care. Because for 12 years he had been alone, and in 7 days with them he had felt more alive than in all that time combined. Because Rebecca had made him feel worthless, and maybe just maybe proving he could save someone would prove he had been worth saving too. But he did not say any of that. Instead he said simply, "Because it is the right thing to do." Catherine smiled. "Told you," she said to Anna. "An angel." "I am not an angel," Ethan repeated. "No." Catherine agreed. "You are something better. You are a man choosing to be good even when it is hard. That is rarer and more precious than any angel." On the 6th day they prepared. Ethan taught Anna to shoot properly, moving beyond basic safety to actual accuracy. She was a quick study, her hand steady, her eye good. By midday she could hit a target at 50 yards more often than not. "You have done this before," he said. "Thomas taught me the basics, but he was not as good a teacher as you." "I am not teaching, I am just showing you how not to die." "Is there a difference?" "Yes. Teaching suggests I care about your progress. I just care about you not shooting me by accident." Anna smiled. "You are a terrible liar." Catherine, meanwhile, proved to be more resilient than either of them expected. She walked the perimeter of the cabin building her strength. She helped prepare food. She told stories of her life before, of her husband James, of the community they had tried to build. "James believed everyone deserved a second chance," she said one evening, "no matter what they had done. He used to say God does not give up on people, neither should we." "What about people who give up on themselves?" Ethan asked. "Especially them, because they are the ones who need second chances most." She looked at him meaningfully. "The question is, will they take the chance when it is offered, or will they stay hiding because it feels safer?" Ethan did not answer, but the question stayed with him. On the 7th day the storm broke. Dawn came clear and cold, the sky a brilliant blue that hurt to look at. The sun glinted off the snow, turning the world into a field of diamonds. Beautiful, deadly, perfect. They packed the last of the supplies. 3 horses from Ethan's small stable. Food for a week. Weapons. Ammunition. Maps. Everything they would need to reach Silver Creek, retrieve the ledger, and get out alive. It was ambitious. Probably impossible. But standing in the clear morning light with Anna and Catherine beside him, Ethan felt something he had not felt in 12 years. Hope. "Are you sure about this?" Anna asked as they saddled the horses. "No, but I am doing it anyway." "Why?" Ethan tightened a strap and turned to face her. "Because 7 days ago I watched you nearly die in the snow, and I realized something. I have been dying too, slowly, one day at a time, dying from loneliness and regret and the belief that isolation was safer than connection. But it is not safer, it is just slower, and I am tired of dying." He swung into his saddle. "So I am going to try living instead, and if that means riding into danger with 2 women I barely know to fight a corrupt mayor and his mad deputy, then so be it. At least I will not die alone on a mountain having never tried." Anna's eyes shimmered. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Thank me when we are alive on the other side." Catherine mounted her horse with Ethan's help, settling into the saddle with a soft groan. "My old bones are going to hate this," she muttered. "Your old bones are tougher than you give them credit for," Anna replied. They rode out as the sun climbed higher, 3 riders heading down the mountain, leaving behind the safety of isolation for the uncertainty of the world. Behind them, the cabin sat silent and empty, waiting. Ahead, Silver Creek waited too, but not patiently and not kindly. The journey had begun. The descent. The first day of riding was brutal. The snow was deep in places, reaching the horses' chests, forcing them to move at a crawl. What should have been 15 miles became 7. Ethan led, breaking trail, his horse laboring through the drifts with grim determination. Anna followed, keeping close to Catherine, ready to help if the older woman faltered. But Catherine surprised them both. Despite her recent brush with death, despite her age, she sat straight in the saddle and never once complained. When they stopped to rest the horses, she would dismount without help and immediately set about making herself useful, gathering deadfall for fires, checking supplies, moving with the efficiency of someone who had lived through harder times than this. "She is remarkable," Anna said to Ethan during one of these stops. "She is stubborn," he replied. "There is a difference." "Is there?" "No, not really." They camped that night in a sheltered hollow trees forming a natural windbreak. Ethan built a fire while Anna tended to Catherine, checking her for signs of exhaustion or relapse. The old woman submitted to the examination with good humor. "I am fine, child. Stop fussing. You were dying 4 days ago." 4 days ago is not today. Today I am alive and riding and doing what needs to be done." She looked at Ethan. "Thank you for giving us this chance." "Do not thank me yet." "Why do you do that?" "Deflect every kindness shown to you." Ethan poked at the fire. "Because kindness comes with expectations, and I have learned that expectations always lead to disappointment." "Not always," Catherine said gently. "Sometimes they lead to connection, to relationship, to love." "Love," Ethan repeated, and the word tasted bitter. "Love is just another word for voluntary suffering." "You are wrong," Anna said from across the fire. "Love is what makes suffering bearable." "You lost your husband. How bearable was that?" Anna was quiet for a long moment. "It was the worst pain I have ever felt," she finally said. "Losing Thomas. But I would not trade the 5 years I had with him to avoid that pain, because those 5 years taught me what it means to be seen, to be valued, to be loved, not despite my flaws, but including them." She met Ethan's eyes across the flames. "You think isolation protects you from pain, but it does not. It just trades one kind of pain for another. The pain of losing someone for the pain of never having anyone at all, and I would choose the first every time." Ethan had no response to that, so he said nothing. They ate in silence, dried venison, hard bread, water from a stream Ethan knew was safe, simple food that tasted like ash in Ethan's mouth, not because of the food itself, but because of the conversation still hanging in the air. Later, after Anna and Catherine had fallen asleep wrapped in their bedrolls, Ethan sat watch. The forest was quiet, the kind of deep silence that only comes in winter when the snow muffles everything. No birds, no animals, just the occasional crack of a tree branch contracting in the cold. He thought about Rebecca, tried to remember exactly what she had looked like. Her eyes had been brown, he remembered that. But what shade? Her hair had been long, but had it been straight or wavy? The details were fading, and that realization brought both relief and a strange grief. He was forgetting her. After 12 years of holding on to that pain like a talisman, he was finally letting it go. And what terrified him was not the loss of the memory. It was what might fill the space it left behind. The second day brought clearer skies but colder temperatures, 20 below zero. The air burned going into the lungs. Ice formed on beards and eyebrows. The horses' breath came in great clouds of steam. They made better time, the snow having consolidated slightly overnight, providing a more stable surface. 12 miles this day. Still slow, but better. They stopped at noon to rest and eat. Catherine dismounted, and immediately her legs buckled. Anna caught her before she fell. "I am all right," Catherine said. "Just stiff. You are pushing too hard. We do not have the luxury of going slow." It was true. Every hour they delayed gave Brennan more time to find the ledger, or destroy it, or set a trap. Ethan approached with a canteen. "Drink," he said. "Dehydration will kill you faster than cold up here." Catherine took the canteen and drank deeply. When she lowered it, her face was drawn. "How much farther to Silver Creek?" 2 more days, maybe 3. "Will we make it in time?" I do not know. Honest, I appreciate that. She handed back the canteen. Ethan, can I ask you something? You just did. Can I ask you something else? He almost smiled. Almost. Yes. Why did you really agree to help us? The real reason, not the polite version. Ethan checked the horses, giving himself time to think. I told you. It is the right thing to do. That is the polite version. I want the real one. He turned to face her. Because I am tired, he said simply. I am tired of being alone. I am tired of pretending I do not need anyone. I am tired of waking up every morning and having nothing to look forward to except more of the same. You and Anna, you reminded me of something I had forgotten. That life can mean something. That actions have consequences beyond just survival. That maybe, just maybe, I could be worth something to someone again. Catherine reached out and took his hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. You were always worth something, son. You just forgot how to see it. She squeezed once and let go. Thank you for telling me the truth. That night they camped in the ruins of an old prospector's cabin. 3 walls still stood, providing shelter from the wind. Ethan built a fire in the remains of the hearth while Anna and Catherine arranged their bedrolls. They ate and talked. Catherine told stories of her teaching days of students she had helped over the years. Anna spoke of her time with Thomas at Fort Union of soldiers she had helped save of others she had lost. Ethan listened more than he spoke, but the silence felt different now. Not the heavy silence of isolation, but the comfortable silence of companionship. After the women had fallen asleep, Anna suddenly sat up. I cannot sleep, she whispered. Too much thinking. Ethan gestured to the space beside him. She came over and sat, pulling her blanket around her shoulders. What are you thinking about? He asked. What we are walking into. What will happen if we fail? We will not fail. How can you be sure? I cannot. But believing we will fail guarantees it. So I choose to believe we will succeed, even if I am wrong. Anna smiled slightly. That is surprisingly optimistic for you. Do not get used to it. They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching the fire. Ethan, Anna said eventually, back at your cabin, when you were stitching my forehead, you were so gentle, so careful, like you had done it before. I have. On myself, mostly. It is more than that. You have a healer's touch, a kindness in your hands. Ethan looked at his hands, scarred, calloused, rough from years of hard work. These are not kind hands. Yes, they are. You just cannot see it. She reached out and took one of his hands in both of hers. Her skin was warm despite the cold. You saved me, she said quietly. You saved Catherine. You are saving us still. You might not think of yourself as good, but your actions say otherwise, and actions are what matter. She squeezed his hand and let go. Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be hard. She went back to her bedroll, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts and the ghost of her touch still warm on his skin. The third day brought them to the edge of the high country. Below them, the land opened into rolling foothills and eventually plains. Silver Creek sat nestled in a valley perhaps 20 miles distant. Too far to see clearly, but Ethan knew it was there. Tomorrow, he said. We will be there tomorrow. And then what? Anna asked. Then I go in alone. Retrieve the ledger. Get out. Why alone? Because they are looking for you two. They are not looking for me. I can move through town without raising suspicion. What if you are caught? Then you and Catherine ride for Fort Collins and find the territorial marshal. Give him your testimony. It will not be as strong without the ledger, but it will be something. Anna shook her head. We stay together, all of us. That is not smart. I do not care. We are in this together now, for better or worse. Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to explain all the tactical reasons why his plan was superior. But looking at Anna's determined face, he knew it would be pointless. You are stubborn, he said. I learned from the best. She nodded toward Catherine, who was scouting ahead, checking the trail. They made camp early, wanting to be rested for the next day. As evening fell, Catherine pulled out something from her pack, a small wooden flute carved and polished smooth by years of handling. "I kept this," she said softly. "It is all I have left of James. He made it for me when we were courting, 40 years ago." She lifted it to her lips and began to play. The sound that emerged was haunting, a slow, melancholy melody that seemed to capture all the grief and loss and hope of their journey. The notes hung in the cold air like visible things. Ethan went rigid, his jaw clenched, his hands balled into fists. That song. He knew that song. Amazing Grace. His mother had sung it, over and over during those last days as disease consumed her, her voice growing weaker but never stopping, singing until the very end. He stood abruptly and walked away from the fire. Anna found him 5 minutes later, standing in the trees, his back to the camp. "The music," he said without turning. "My mother used to sing that, before she died." "I am sorry." Catherine did not know. "It is fine." "It is not fine. You are shaking." He was, his whole body trembling with suppressed emotion. Anna stepped closer. "It is all right to feel things, Ethan, to remember, to grieve. I have grieved for 12 years. Have you? Or have you just been numb?" He turned to face her, and Anna saw tears tracking down through his beard, freezing on his face. "They all left me," he said, his voice breaking. "My parents, my brother, Rebecca. Everyone I ever loved either died or abandoned me, and I swore I would never let anyone close enough to do it again. But you and Catherine, you are already close, and it terrifies me." Anna reached up and gently wiped the tears from his face. "I know," she said softly. "I am terrified too. After losing Thomas, I swore the same thing, that I would never risk that pain again. But hiding from pain means hiding from joy too, and I am tired of hiding." They stood there in the darkness, two damaged people, both scared, both hoping. "What if we fail?" Ethan whispered. "What if Brennan kills us all? What if I lose you the way I lost everyone else? Then at least you tried, at least you lived, at least you let yourself care one more time." She leaned forward and rested her forehead against his chest. "I am not Rebecca. I will not leave you if things get hard. I will not choose security over loyalty. And whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together, all of us." Ethan's arms came up slowly and wrapped around her, held her close, let himself feel the warmth of another person, the comfort of not being alone. They stood like that for a long time, while Catherine's flute sang its mournful song and the stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns. Tomorrow they would ride into danger. Tonight they had this moment. And for Ethan Blackwood, who had been alone for so very long, this moment was everything. Silver Creek looked peaceful from a distance. Nestled in its valley with smoke rising from chimneys, snow covering the rooftops like frosting on a cake, it could have been a painting, a vision of frontier life at its most idyllic. Church steeple pointing toward heaven. Main Street lined with shops, houses clustered together like they were huddling for warmth. But Ethan knew better. He had learned long ago that the most dangerous things often wore the prettiest faces. They stopped on a ridge overlooking the town, keeping to the trees. It was mid-afternoon of the 4th day. They had made good time pushing hard through the morning. "There," Catherine said, pointing to a white building with a cross on top. "The church. The ledger is hidden there." "How do we get in without being seen?" Anna asked. Ethan studied the town layout. Main Street ran north to south. The church sat on the eastern edge, backing up to a cemetery and then open land. Approaches from the east would be mostly concealed, but getting into the church itself, that was the problem. "We wait for dark," he said. "Then Anna and I go in. Catherine, you stay with the horses." "I can help," Catherine protested. "You can help by being ready to ride if things go wrong. If we are not back in 2 hours, you go. Straight to Fort Collins. Find the marshal. Tell him everything." Catherine wanted to argue. Ethan could see it in her face, but she also recognized the wisdom in the plan. 2 hours, she agreed. Not a minute longer. They found a sheltered spot a mile from town and made camp. No fire, No noise, just waiting as the sun crawled across the sky with agonizing slowness. Ethan checked his weapons for the 10th time. Colt pistol, knife. Anna watched him work. "You are nervous," she observed. "I am cautious. There is a difference." "Is there?" "No, not really." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. They sat in silence for a while. Then Anna spoke. "If something happens to me in there, I need you to know something. Nothing is going to happen. But if it does, I need you to know that these last days they have been a gift. You gave me hope again, made me remember what it feels like to trust someone, to rely on someone. And I am grateful for that, whatever happens." Ethan looked at her, really looked. In the fading afternoon light, she was beautiful. Not in the way Rebecca had been beautiful, all polish and perfection, but in a deeper way. The kind of beauty that comes from surviving hard things and still choosing kindness. "Nothing is going to happen," he said again, but this time he reached out and took her hand. "I promise." It was a foolish promise, the kind you cannot keep through will alone, but she squeezed his hand and smiled anyway. Darkness fell like a curtain. At 7 o'clock, when the town had settled into evening routines, Ethan and Anna moved. They left their horses with Catherine and approached on foot, moving through the cemetery like ghosts. The church was dark. No lights in the windows, no signs of activity. Ethan tested the back door. Locked. He pulled a thin piece of metal from his coat, something he had fashioned years ago for opening his own locks when he lost keys, and worked it into the mechanism. 30 seconds. Click. The door swung open on well-oiled hinges. Inside the church was cold and still. Moonlight filtered through the windows, casting everything in shades of blue and silver. Rows of pews, a simple altar, a cross on the wall. "5th row from the door," Anna whispered. "3rd board from the left." They moved forward, their footsteps silent on the wooden floor, found the row, counted boards. Ethan knelt and knocked 3 times, just as Catherine had instructed, then pulled. The board came up easily, revealing a hollow space beneath, and in that space a leather-bound ledger. Ethan reached for it. The front door of the church crashed open. "I would not touch that if I were you." Ethan spun his hand, moving toward his pistol, but 6 men stood in the doorway, guns already drawn. And in the center, holding a lantern that cast his face in demonic shadows, stood Clayton Frost. The mayor of Silver Creek was a handsome man, 55 years old, silver hair, expensive suit. He looked like someone's kindly grandfather, which made the coldness in his eyes all the more disturbing. "Mr. Blackwood," Frost said pleasantly, "I have heard so much about you, the hermit of the high country, the man who minds his own business. And yet here you are, breaking into a church, stealing from a hiding place only a very few people knew about." He walked forward slowly, his men spreading out to cover all exits. "Which means someone told you. Someone who should have died in the snow days ago. Tell me, how are Mrs. Hayes and Mrs. Porter still breathing? What a remarkable coincidence." Anna stepped forward. "You killed my husband. You killed Pastor James. And you will pay for it." Frost sighed as if dealing with a tiresome child. "Mrs. Hayes, your husband died in an unfortunate mining accident. Pastor Porter was killed by a drunk miner in a moment of passion. Tragic, yes, but hardly my doing. You have let grief cloud your judgment." "We have proof," Anna said. "That ledger documents everything. The money you stole, the bribes you paid, all of it." "That ledger," Frost said, "documents church finances kept by a man who was sadly embezzling from his own congregation. When his fraud was discovered, he hid the evidence and then arranged his own death to look like murder. A desperate man's desperate act. No one will believe that. They will believe what I tell them to believe. I am the mayor, a respected pillar of this community. You are a widow everyone believes is a thief and a curse. Who do you think they will trust?" He gestured to his men. "Take them, both of them, gently if possible, but take them." The men moved forward. Ethan drew his pistol in one smooth motion and fired. The lantern in Frost's hand exploded in a spray of burning oil. Frost screamed and stumbled backward. The church was plunged into darkness, except for the small fires now spreading where the oil had splattered. "Run!" Ethan shouted. He and Anna bolted for the back door. Gunshots erupted behind them, bullets punching through wood-shattering windows. They crashed through the door and into the cemetery. Behind them, Frost was screaming orders. "After them, I want them alive, alive, do you hear me?" But his men were not listening to the alive part. More shots rang out. Anna cried out and stumbled. "Anna, I am fine, keep moving." They ran through the headstones, using them for cover. Reached the tree line, kept running. Behind them the church had caught fire flames climbing the walls. Frost's cursing echoed through the night. They ran for 10 minutes, putting distance between themselves and pursuit. Finally, lungs burning, they stopped. "Let me see," Ethan said, reaching for Anna's arm. She had been shot. The bullet had grazed her upper arm, cutting a furrow through the flesh, but not hitting bone. Blood soaked her sleeve. "It is not bad," she said through gritted teeth. "It is bad enough. We need to bind it." He used his own shirt, tearing strips and wrapping them tight around the wound. Anna hissed in pain but did not cry out. "The ledger," she said. "We did not get it." "No, but Frost does not have it either. It is burning with the church. So we have nothing. We have our lives. That is something." A twig snapped behind them. Ethan spun, gun raised. Catherine emerged from the shadows, leading their horses. "I heard the shots," she said. "Thought you might need a faster exit than walking." Relief washed over Ethan. "You were supposed to wait at the camp." "I am old, not obedient. Now get on your horses. Frost will have men combing these woods within the hour." They mounted and rode, pushing the horses hard despite the darkness. North first to confuse any pursuit, then east toward Fort Collins. They rode for 3 hours before stopping in a thick stand of pine trees. Anna was pale, her arm still bleeding despite the binding. Catherine looked exhausted. Ethan himself felt like he had aged 10 years in the last 10 hours. "We failed," Anna said quietly. "The ledger is gone. Our proof is gone. Frost wins." "Not yet, he does not," Catherine said. She reached into her coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Before we left Silver Creek all those days ago, I made a copy. Not of the whole ledger, I did not have time, but of the most damning pages, the ones that show Frost stealing from the widow fund, the ones that prove he diverted church money into his own accounts." She handed the pages to Ethan. "It is not everything, but it is enough. Enough to start an investigation, enough to make people question, enough to save us." Ethan stared at the pages, then at Catherine. "You have been carrying this the entire time. I am old, not stupid. I knew we might not be able to get to the church, so I made sure we had a backup plan." Anna laughed. It was a slightly hysterical sound, but it was a laugh. "You are brilliant," she said. "I am practical," Catherine corrected. "There is a difference." "Is there?" Ethan asked. "No, not really. They made camp there deep enough in the woods that no one would find them without specifically looking." Ethan tended Anna's arm properly, cleaning the wound with whiskey and rebinding it with fresh cloth. "This will scar," he said. "I do not care about scars." "No, I suppose you would not." He finished the binding and sat back. Anna caught his hand before he could pull away. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for saving me, for coming with us, for caring even though you fought against it. I am still fighting it. I know, but you are losing, and I am glad." She smiled and released his hand. That night, taking first watch while the others slept, Ethan thought about everything that had happened. 2 weeks ago he had been alone on his mountain, content in his isolation. Now he was riding through hostile territory with 2 wanted women, trying to bring down a corrupt mayor and feeling things he had sworn never to feel again. It should have terrified him. Instead, he felt alive. The ride to Fort Collins took 3 more days. 3 days of constant vigilance, looking over their shoulders, expecting pursuit at any moment. 3 days of rationing food and water, of sleeping in shifts, of pushing themselves and the horses to the edge of collapse. Anna's wound festered on the 2nd day despite Ethan's care. By the 3rd day she was running a fever. "We need to move faster," Ethan said to Catherine. Infection is setting in. She cannot ride any faster. None of us can. Then I will carry her, but we have to get to Fort Collins. They will have a doctor there. You cannot carry her and maintain this pace. Watch me." He lifted Anna onto his horse in front of him, holding her with one arm while controlling the reins with the other. It was awkward and exhausting, but it allowed them to move faster. Anna drifted in and out of consciousness, her head resting against Ethan's chest. During her lucid moments, she would speak. "Thomas used to hold me like this," she murmured, "when I was sick. He would rock me and tell me stories until I fell asleep." "What kind of stories?" "About the future, about the house we would build, the children we would have, all the things we were going to do when the war was over and we could finally live in peace." "Did you love him very much?" "Yes, but not the way I love you." Ethan almost dropped the reins. "Anna, you are feverish. You do not know what you are saying." "I know exactly what I am saying. I love you, Ethan Blackwood. I have loved you since the day you saved me, since the day you chose to help even though it cost you your peace, since the day you proved that good men still exist in this ugly world." She looked up at him with fever-bright eyes. "And I know you love me too. You are just too scared to admit it." Then she passed out again. Ethan rode in silence, his mind churning. She was delirious, fever talking. She could not possibly mean what she said, except some part of him believed she did, and some part of him, the part he had buried 12 years ago, believed it back. They reached Fort Collins on the evening of the third day. The town was larger than Silver Creek, maybe 400 people. It had a proper main street, a sheriff's office, a doctor's clinic, even a small hotel. Signs of civilization. Ethan rode straight to the clinic, barely pausing to explain to the startled doctor before carrying Anna inside and laying her on an examination table. "Gunshot wound," he said. 3 days ago. Infected." The doctor, a woman in her 40s with efficient hands and a no-nonsense manner, immediately went to work. "You did decent field medicine," she said as she cut away the bandages. "But this needs real treatment. She is lucky. Another day and we would be talking amputation." "Will she be all right?" "If the infection has not reached the bone, yes. But she needs rest and proper care. Days of it, not hours." Ethan nodded, relief washing through him so powerfully it made him dizzy. Catherine appeared in the doorway. "There is a sheriff here, Marcus Grayson. I sent for him. Told him we needed to speak about a matter of territorial law. And he believed you." "I am a sweet old woman. People always believe sweet old women." 10 minutes later, Sheriff Marcus Grayson entered the clinic. He was 50 years old, weathered like old leather with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He looked at Ethan, then at Catherine, then at Anna, unconscious on the table. "All right," he said. "Someone want to tell me what this is about, and why my town suddenly has 3 strangers, one of them shot, and rumors of trouble in Silver Creek." Ethan pulled out Catherine's copied ledger pages and handed them over. "Mayor Clayton Frost of Silver Creek has been embezzling from the church fund for years. He killed Pastor James Porter to cover it up. He killed Dr. Thomas Hayes for discovering a silver vein on land he wanted to steal. And tonight he tried to kill us for having proof." Grayson studied the pages, his face growing darker with each line he read. "These could be forgeries." "They could be," Ethan agreed, "which is why we need an official investigation. Subpoena the bank records, interview witnesses, check the original ledger." "The original burned when Frost set fire to the church tonight," Catherine added. "Convenient, is it not?" Grayson looked at her. "You are Catherine Porter, James Porter's widow." "I am. I knew James. Good man, honest. If he kept a ledger documenting fraud, I believe him." He folded the pages and tucked them into his coat. "I will send a telegram to the territorial marshal in Denver. This is bigger than local law. But understand it will take time, maybe weeks, maybe months. Justice is slow." "Will we be safe here?" Ethan asked. "As safe as I can make you, but if Frost has the kind of reach you say he does, nowhere is completely safe." He looked at each of them in turn. "You folks should rest, get cleaned up, eat. I will post a deputy outside this clinic tonight. Tomorrow we will talk more, figure out next steps." He turned to leave, then paused. What you did bringing this to light, that took courage. People like Frost, they count on everyone being too scared to stand up to them. So thank you for standing anyway. Then he was gone. Ethan sat in a chair beside Anna's bed and finally, for the first time in days, allowed himself to relax. The tension drained out of his shoulders. His eyes burned with exhaustion. Catherine appeared with 2 cups of coffee. "Drink," she said. "You look half dead." "I feel fully dead." "But you did it. We did it. Frost will be held accountable." "Maybe. Grayson said it could take months. What do we do until then?" "We live. We heal. We figure out what comes next." She sat in the other chair, wincing as her old bones settled. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Can I stop you?" "No, not really." A small smile. "I have been watching you and Anna, the way you look at her when she is not looking, the way she looks at you, the way you held her on that horse like she was the most precious thing in the world." "Catherine." "Hush. I am old. Let me finish." She sipped her coffee. "James and I, we had 40 years together. 40 years of waking up next to each other, of fighting and forgiving, of building a life one small decision at a time. And do you know what made it possible? Not love. Love is easy. What made it possible was the choice every single day to stay, to keep trying, to believe the other person was worth the effort even when it was hard." She looked at him directly. "You have a choice to make, Ethan. You can go back to your mountain, return to your isolation, convince yourself that being alone is safer. Or you can stay. Choose connection over safety. Choose love over fear. But you have to choose, because Anna deserves someone who chooses her fully, not someone who keeps one foot out the door just in case. What if I am not capable of that? What if I am too broken? You are not broken. You are scared. There is a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. Broken things cannot heal. Scared things just need courage." She stood with effort and patted his shoulder. "Think about it. But do not think too long. Life is short, and the good parts are shorter still." She left him alone with his thoughts and the sound of Anna's breathing. Ethan sat there for hours watching the woman who had somehow broken through 12 years of walls without even trying, who had looked at him damaged and difficult and seen something worth saving, who had said she loved him while fevered and half dead, and he suspected she would say it again when she was well. The question was, what would he say back? Anna woke 2 days later. The first thing she saw was Ethan slumped in a chair beside her bed asleep. He looked exhausted. His beard was unkempt, his clothes rumpled, but he was there. "You stayed?" she whispered. His eyes opened immediately, alert despite the exhaustion. "You are awake." "How long?" 2 days. The infection was worse than we thought, but the doctor says you will recover fully." Anna tried to sit up and pain lanced through her arm. She gasped. "Easy," Ethan said, helping her. "You were shot. Remember, healing takes time." "I remember. I remember a lot of things. The church, the fire, the ride, and I remember saying something to you, something I should not have said while fevered." "You do not remember what specifically." "I do. I am just hoping you forgot." "I did not forget." They looked at each other for a long moment. "Did you mean it?" Ethan asked quietly. "Yes." "You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you are kind even when you pretend not to be. I know you are brave even when you are scared. I know you saved my life multiple times without asking for anything in return. And I know that when you held me on that horse I felt safer than I have felt since Thomas died. So yes, I meant it." Ethan stood and walked to the window. Outside, Fort Collins was going about its daily business. People walking, horses pulling wagons, life continuing. "I am not good at this," he said. "At relationships. At being close to someone. I will disappoint you. I will hurt you. Not on purpose, but I will. Because I am damaged and difficult, and I do not know how to be any other way. I am not asking you to be different. I am just asking you to try. to stay instead of running, to let yourself feel something real even if it scares you. He turned back to face her. And if I fail, if I cannot give you what you need, then we fail together. But at least we tried. Ethan walked back to the bed and sat on the edge. He took her hand, carefully avoiding the injured arm. I do not know how to do this, he said. But I want to learn. If you are patient with me, if you understand that I will make mistakes. We will both make mistakes. That is what people do. He smiled, small but genuine. Then I suppose we should try. Anna squeezed his hand. That is all I needed to hear. The next week passed in a strange kind of peace. Anna grew stronger each day. By the 5th day, she could walk around the clinic without help. By the 7th, she was insisting she was well enough to leave. The doctor disagreed, but was overruled by Anna's stubbornness. They found rooms at the small hotel, 3 rooms, one for Catherine, one for Anna, one for Ethan. They ate meals together, walked the town together, began the slow process of figuring out what came next. Sheriff Grayson kept them updated on the investigation. The territorial marshal had received the copied ledger pages, had sent investigators to Silver Creek. Frost was being questioned, but remained free, claiming innocence. These things take time, Grayson said, but the wheels are turning. Justice may be slow, but it is coming. What about Brennan? Ethan asked. Found dead. Apparently shot himself after burning his own house down. Guilt, maybe. Or Frost tying up loose ends. Hard to say. Catherine shook her head sadly. That poor man. So consumed by grief, he let it destroy him. And Frost used that, manipulated it. Frost is good at manipulation, Grayson said, but even he cannot manipulate territorial judges. When this goes to trial, and it will, he will hang. 2 weeks after arriving in Fort Collins, something shifted. Ethan was walking back to the hotel one evening when he saw Anna sitting on a bench outside, wrapped in a shawl, watching the sunset. He sat beside her. You should be inside. It is cold. I like the cold. It reminds me I am alive. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Ethan, Anna said eventually, what happens after the trial? After Frost is dealt with? What do we do then? I have been thinking about that. And I think I am done with hiding, done with being alone on a mountain while life passes me by. I think I want to try living again, really living. What would that look like? He turned to face her. I was thinking we could take the land, Catherine's land with the silver vein, and instead of mining it for profit, we use the value to build something, a place for people who need a second chance, widows, orphans, people who have nowhere else to go. We build houses, a school, a medical clinic, make it a real community. Anna's eyes widened. That would cost thousands of dollars, years of work. I have time. And if the silver vein is as rich as Thomas thought, we would have money. We could hire people to help, make it real. If you and Catherine want to be part of it, but I understand if you would rather go somewhere else. Start fresh, away from all the memories. Anna took his hand. I want to build something with you, something that matters, something that proves all the suffering we went through was not for nothing. It would be hard work. Good. I am tired of easy things. Easy things have never made me happy. Ethan laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprised him. Then I suppose we have a plan. I suppose we do. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they watched the sun set together, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold and red. 6 weeks later, Clayton Frost stood trial in Denver. The territorial judge was a stern man named Harlan Stone, who had a reputation for fairness and a deep hatred of corruption. The courtroom was packed. People from Silver Creek, people from Fort Collins, journalists from as far as San Francisco. Ethan, Anna, and Catherine sat in the front row, witnesses for the prosecution. The trial lasted 3 days. Catherine testified about Pastor James, about the ledger he kept, about the evidence he had gathered before being murdered. She spoke clearly and calmly, her voice never wavering even when the defense attorney tried to trip her up. Anna testified about Thomas, about the maps he had made, about the silver vein he had discovered, about how Frost had tried to buy the land cheap and when she refused had turned the town against her. Ethan testified about finding them in the snow, about the chase, about breaking into the church and Frost's confession. The defense tried to paint them as conspirators, as people with grudges and axes to grind, as unreliable witnesses motivated by grief and greed. But then the prosecution brought out the bank records. 8 years of deposits that matched exactly the amounts Catherine's copied ledger pages showed as missing from the church fund. Money going into Frost's personal accounts. Money he could not explain. The defense crumbled. On the afternoon of the third day, the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty of embezzlement, of conspiracy to murder, of attempted murder. Judge Stone did not hesitate. Clayton Frost, I sentence you to death by hanging, to be carried out 1 month from today. May God have mercy on your soul, because this court has none. Frost stood rigid, his face pale. For a moment the mask slipped, and Ethan saw what was underneath. Not a monster, just a small, greedy man who had thought himself above consequences. You cannot do this, Frost said, his voice shaking. I am a mayor. I have rights. I have friends. You were a mayor, Judge Stone corrected. Now you are a murderer. And in this territory murderers hang. Take him away. Guards led Frost out of the courtroom. He was still protesting, still claiming innocence, still unable to accept that the world he had built on lies had finally collapsed. Outside the courthouse, Catherine stood in the sunshine and breathed deeply. It is done, she said. James can rest now. Thomas can rest. And us? Anna asked. Can we rest? No, Catherine said, but she was smiling. We have work to do, a community to build, a life to live. Rest is for the dead. We are still alive. They walked back to their hotel through the crowded streets of Denver. 3 people who had been strangers 6 weeks ago and were now something more. Family, maybe, or something even deeper. The kind of bond forged through shared suffering and shared hope. That night, Ethan found himself unable to sleep. He stood on the small balcony outside his room looking up at the stars. The same stars that shone over his cabin, the same stars that had watched him waste 12 years in isolation. A door opened behind him. Anna stepped out onto the balcony wrapped in a blanket. Cannot sleep either, she asked. Too much thinking. About what? About everything. About how much life has changed in 6 weeks. About what happens next. Anna moved to stand beside him. What do you want to happen next? Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple ring. He had bought it that afternoon from a jeweler in Denver. Nothing fancy, just a silver band with a small stone, all he could afford. I want to marry you, he said, if you will have me. I want to build that community we talked about. I want to wake up next to you every morning and go to bed next to you every night. I want to try to be the man you think I am, even though I am terrified I will fail. Anna looked at the ring, then at his face, then back at the ring. Are you sure? Because I will not be an easy wife. I am stubborn and opinionated, and I will argue with you constantly. Good. I do not want easy. Easy has never made me happy. She laughed and held out her hand. He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Yes, she said. Yes, I will marry you. I will fight with you and forgive you and build something beautiful with you. And I will love you every single day, even the days when you drive me absolutely insane. He kissed her, then there under the stars, and felt something inside him that had been frozen for 12 years finally begin to thaw. When they finally pulled apart, Catherine was standing in her own doorway, watching them with a knowing smile. About time, she said. I was beginning to think you two would never figure it out. How long have you been standing there? Anna asked. Long enough. Now get inside and get some sleep. We have a wedding to plan, and after that we have a community to build. Time is wasting. She closed her door with a decisive click. Ethan and Anna looked at each other and laughed. "She is right," Anna said. "Time is wasting. Then we should stop wasting it." They went inside together, leaving the stars to shine on without them. The frame returns now to where we began, to 1920, to an old man and his grandson sitting by a fire while snow falls outside. And that, Ethan says, his voice rough with age and memory, is how Blackwood Haven came to be. Michael sits silent, processing everything. Then he asks the question that has been building. What happened to Mayor Frost? Hanged, January 15, 1876. I watched. We all did. Anna insisted. She said we needed to see justice done, to know that evil can be punished, that the world is not always unjust. And Mrs. Catherine, Ethan stands with effort and gestures for Michael to follow. They walk through the halls of Blackwood Haven. The place has grown over the decades. What started as 3 cabins is now a proper compound. Houses, a school building, a medical clinic, a chapel, all of it surrounding a central square where a memorial stone stands. Catherine Porter, 1819 to 1920, teacher, mother, friend. She died 3 months ago, 101 years old, taught her last class 2 days before she died, said she had too much knowledge in her head to let it waste. Michael sees the dates and does the math. She lived here the whole time, for 45 years. She did. Said this was where she belonged, where she could do the most good. And she was right. She taught 3 generations of children. Some of those children are teachers now themselves, spreading her wisdom even further. They continue walking and come to the clinic. Inside, an elderly woman with silver hair is bandaging a young boy's scraped knee. She looks up and smiles when she sees Ethan. "There you are," Anna says. "I was wondering where you had gone." At 77, she is still beautiful, still fierce, still the woman who looked at a broken man and saw someone worth saving. "Telling stories again," she asks Ethan. He asked how this place started. "And did you tell him the important part?" "What important part?" Anna walks over and takes his hand the same way she has for 44 years. That it was not about revenge or justice or even survival. It was about choosing to love even when it scared us, choosing to build even when it was hard, choosing each other every single day. That is what made this place possible. Not anger, not pain, love. She looks at Michael. "Your grandfather was the loneliest man I ever met when I first saw him. Convinced he was better off alone, and maybe he was safer alone. But safe is not the same as happy, and we do not build legacies by playing it safe. We build them by taking risks on people, on hope, on the possibility that tomorrow might be better than today if we are brave enough to try." Ethan squeezes her hand. "Still making speeches, I see." "Someone has to. You are terrible at expressing emotion. You married me anyway. Worst decision of my life." "Liar." They smile at each other, a private smile that speaks of decades of shared life, of arguments and forgiveness, of children raised and grandchildren spoiled, of a love that survived and deepened because they chose it every single day. "Come," Anna says to Michael, "let me show you the school, Catherine's school, and you can meet some of the people we have helped over the years. 50 people live here now, each with their own story of loss and redemption, each proof that second chances matter." They walk out into the snow, the same snow that fell 44 years ago when 2 women knocked on a cabin door and changed one man's life forever. "Grandfather," Michael asks as they walk, "do you ever regret it, giving up your solitude, your peace?" Ethan stops and looks around, at the houses filled with families, at the school filled with children, at the clinic where his wife still heals the broken, at the memorial stone honoring a woman who taught them all that wisdom is meant to be shared. "Every time I thought I was giving something up," he says quietly, "I was actually gaining something better. I thought I was giving up peace, but I was gaining purpose. I thought I was giving up safety, but I was gaining love, and I thought I was giving up my life, but I was finally starting to live it. He looks at his grandson. The mountain taught me how to survive. But these women taught me why survival matters, taught me that a life lived only for yourself is no life at all. And they gave me 45 years to prove I had learned the lesson. They stand together in the snow, 3 generations watching the sun set over Blackwood Haven. And Ethan Blackwood, who once believed he would die alone on a mountain, is surrounded by the family he chose and the family he built and the legacy he will leave behind. He never had a wife, he thinks, until he had a wife and a community and a reason to wake up every morning. Until 2 women knocked on his door in the middle of a blizzard and saved his life by letting him save theirs. The snow continues to fall gentle and persistent, covering everything in white. Fresh snow on old ground, new life built on old foundations. And in the window of the main house, Catherine's flute sits on a shelf waiting for someone to play it again, waiting to tell its story to the next generation. Because stories like love are meant to be shared. And this story, the story of the mountain's mercy, will be told for generations to come.